Hello everyone and welcome to our CFS forecast going into January, February today, on Sunday, August 24th, 2025. So on Sundays we go through the CFS long-range forecast, the past four CFS runs up till, as far as they go today, it's up till Friday, February 6th, and we'll see what it shows for the next 5 or 6 months. So starting off with yesterday's CFS 6-head run. So going through end of August, we know what's happening. Erin is bringing a lot of rain and wind with it. And going into September, starting off cool and showery, but high pressure tries to build in for a while, but that attempt is flattened off. Around the 10th, we get another attempt, but quickly that is also flattened off by areas of low pressure coming in from the west. So very wet and windy September here, and quite cool as well at times. October starting off wet and windy, plenty of areas of low pressure, colder by the 12th temporarily. Colder again by the 17th and 18th, and then high pressure comes in over the country. Cold and frosty possibly by that point, but going milder there by the 23rd and 24th as we see more of a southerly airflow as the high moves to the east. Going forward towards the end of the month, looking quite mild and dry, with high pressure over the country. Halloween looks wet and windy. The 1st of November looks very wet and windy to the west, strong jet stream and deep lows. So starting off wet and windy here. Going through very mild by the 13th with high pressure centered towards Ukraine, low pressure down towards the Azores, and a strong polar vortex Greenland, Iceland. And we see a southerly airflow, so very mild there through mid-November, and going through towards the end of the month, it stays very mild and quite dry really. Briefly colder by the 29th, and starting December, quite chilly with northerly winds, but the high pressure does cut that off swiftly. We're into westerly airflow then, very wet and windy into mid-month. Coming towards Christmas now, and we're looking mild and quite dry. Upper temperatures, yeah, they're quite mild and probably quite a benign Christmas. Quite cloudy, quite misty, quite foggy. Up to the new year, looking quite dry, possibly frosty if there are clear skies. January, starting off wet, windy. Stays wet and windy really through January, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. And start of February, wet, windy. So a bit of a sort of like mundane, not too special CFS 6-head run to start us off there. Nothing much going on, nothing much deviating from the typical westerly airflow, unfortunately, but probably also quite a realistic run, if I'm being honest with you. Into the CFS 12-head run from yesterday. You can see Erin bringing us a change to wetter and windier weather. Beyond that, starting off September, looking cool and showery with areas of low pressure. Brief ridge on the 9th of September. That does help to bring in some warmer air from the southwest, but probably quite cloudy as well. Wind staying from that southwesterly direction. Long fetch southwesterly wind there, so quite cloudy, moisture laden air. Some drizzle around at times and so on. Now going into mid-month here, we see a more convincing ridge building, but it is being put under strain quite quickly as areas of low pressure deep into the north, and going through towards the final third of the month, blocking forms towards Greenland, and we get an easterly airflow. Upper temperatures with that. Quite cold for September, should I say. And then we end the month quite cool and dry under that area of high pressure that builds in over that cold air mass. So starting off October, quite dry and quite cool, and going a bit milder there by the 7th as more of a southeasterly wind picks up. Also, low pressure moves in readily to introduce more rain. Colder by the 14th again, as the high pressure builds towards Iceland and low pressure goes to the south. upper temperatures. Now, if that came off, say like in like January, that would be a snow event. But as that is just October, that would just be cold rain and chilly easterly winds. Beyond that, it goes drier again, probably quite frosty, quite cold maybe into the 20th, but it goes milder as the high goes to the south, and we see more of a westerly airflow in the final third of October. Going into Halloween, it looks quite dry, and starting off November, quite westerly. Colder for a time as well, and it's quite unsettled generally up until mid-month. We see high pressure towards Scandinavia and easterly winds, bringing cold air in. The -5 Celsius ice storm comes through, bringing in probably a few wintry showers and some chilly winds and frosty nights. We go into the final third of November, and the high pressure goes to the west, and we see we're on the periphery, we're on the edge of a northerly blast, but even so, we get some cold air through, enough to bring probably some showers, wintry at times, towards the north coast and some frost by night. Towards the end of November, we see a more of a flat westerly wind re-establishing as the high pressure goes back to the Azores and low pressure deepens towards Greenland, Iceland. Jet stream pumps up due to a bigger contrast in temperatures between the cold air out of Canada and the warmer airs from tropics. And yeah, that feeds us more areas of low pressure. Starting off December, a bit cooler on the first day, but that is quickly replaced by low pressure. High pressure though by the 8th of December is to our east. Some chillier air coming in around that from the southeast. Some frost at times, I'd say. And then into mid-month, we see a big area of high pressure centered to our east. It needs to be further north though, towards Scandinavia, for it to be called a proper Scandinavian high. And as it is, although winds are easterly, they're coming in from like the Balkans, so quite mild, really. Especially if it's cloudy, but under clear skies by night. We are dragging in, I should say, some surface level colds off the continent. So probably quite frosty by night and quite chilly maybe in the daytime. But fundamentally, that is technically a mild pattern aloft, but on the ground, it could be very different through mid-month there. Going towards Christmas, and it goes probably milder there with southerly winds. And, well, a bit benign. Possibly frosty by night here. Christmas Day, upper temperatures looking a bit chilly, probably quite frosty and bright, I'd say. And we actually go quite cold there into the run-up to the New Year through late December. Early January looks quite benign, bit colder there by the 5th. We keep going through January, it stays very westerly, jet stream is strong. Up to the 26th, we get another easterly snap, bringing the -10 Celsius ice storm there. Going into quite a severe cold spell there, I think, in January, start of February. We end up on Friday, February 6th, with the highs to the north, lows to the south, easterly winds, -10 ice storm being dragged in. So the CFS 12 head run is much more interesting compared to the 6 head run, all the way through like October through February. There are little incursions of easterly and northerly winds, and it's really the one through late January and early February that brings the most severe cold weather, wintry weather here. So quite a nice run there from the 12Z run for anyone who wants that sort of weather, at least. Obviously, some want it mild. I don't, personally. I love some cold weather because it's winter time. Who wants, like, southwesterly winds, in my opinion? So going on to the CFS 18Z, again from yesterday, you can see here comes this change to more low pressure through the end of August and start of September. Going quite cool there as well. High pressure though by the 6th of September is back in, bringing in plenty of warm and dry weather. More of an easterly influence maybe by the 10th of the month. More showery then as well. The high pressure breaks towards mid-month, more showers then. But even then, the high pressure isn't too far away. It's just to our south, so reasonably settles, especially in the south. Until we go into the final third of the month, and it goes properly and settles with low pressure right over the country, and northerly winds trying to push in. Now, starting October looking wet and windy. High pressure though builds over into the north. Easterly winds, not overly warm. They're not reliably warm by that point. It's probably a bit chilly, showery. Going into mid-month, we see a return of the westerly winds here. So going through into the final third of October, looking wetter and windy, a bit cooler as well, with more of a northerly influence. And into the end of the month, we're back to somewhat of an Azores high influence here. So the CFS 18Z is definitely much more involved with high pressure through September and October here. Having said that, though, we're going colder for Halloween with a more northerly or northeasterly airflow. So quite cold Halloween there. And starting off November, looking cold and frosty here. But that's short-lived. Back to westerly winds here. By mid-month, we stay westerly. Long fetch southwesterly by the 16th. That's very mild, but drying up as well as a strong area of high pressure builds to our south over France, Low Countries, Germany, Switzerland, often to like Central Europe there as well. So turning milder and drier there for a time. Let's see what happens. Towards the end of the month, we go a bit cooler with more of a northwest southeast alignments towards the wind flow and jet stream. Windy as well, and by the start of December, we're going colder with northerly winds as the high pressure just sort of reaches to the west. That is, however, not a locked-in cold pattern, and quite readily the high pressure topples to the south, and we go into a more of westerly airflow. Changeable into December again. Nothing much really going on. Just really quite zonal. High to the south, low to the north. A lot of weather fronts. Possibly cold snap from the northwest there for a time around the solstice. And Christmas itself is looking quite decent, I think. We're between systems there. A slight ridge there from the Azores side, quite chilly as well. So frosty, I think, for Christmas Day. No snow, but frost. White from frost. And going into the period up to the new year, going milder with more southwesterly winds pushing in. January starting off mild, wet and windy. It stays mild, wet and windy really right through January. Does it stay that way? Yes, it does. It does. So like the 6Z run, the 18Z run isn't doing much really interesting. But I think the 18Z run has more deviations from just the standard westerly winds compared to the 6Z run, which is kept westerly. For example, the 18Z had a more of a decent autumn, I think, yeah, and a few little cold incursions to the early winter period. And finally, this is the CFS midnight run from today. So going through it all over again, here comes that breakdown to low pressure that we've been, oh my god, babbling on about for weeks now. And going through towards start of September, we're cool and wet. Although high pressure builds in weekly by the 5th, but that is weak, as I said, and it's flattened off quickly. More low pressure, a bit warmer there by mid-month, but that is unsettles. Now, beyond mid-month, we see a more strong build, a more convincing build as well from the Azores high. So that brings some warmer weather as well, with that quite reminiscent actually of last year. Around this sort of period of the month, we saw the Azores side bringing in quite a nice spell of weather. And getting through into the end of the month, we go wetter, windy as well, blocking towards Greenland, Iceland area, cooler as well. And starting October, looking cool and wet. Northerly winds do come through there for a time. And going through into early October, the high pressure does move over the country, so cutting off that northerly wind, but staying frosty at times. And we go more westerly then into the rest of the month. Halloween is looking westerly, wet and windy, bit colder for a time into early November. Going more westerly again, more wet and windy, milder and drier by the 10th and 11th. It stays quite mild and dry through mid-month there, and it goes more westerly finally by the end of the month. No, it doesn't. Brief incursion there on the 25th, but really we stay with high pressure over to the south, bringing in plenty of mild and dry weather. December looking like it's going to be changeable, but with some areas of high pressure coming through, and a bit colder there by the 12th of December. Big northerly blast, but the high pressure is not in a classic position to bring us cold weather. That backline there, that is a jet stream, and it's quite amplified, but really you need blocking to be over Greenland, Iceland to really bring in the proper cold weather, prolonged cold weather. So what happens here is the high pressure just topples back towards the Azores, and we go more westerly again towards Christmas. Christmas itself is looking a bit chilly, probably quite frosty. So if there's no snow, at least it'll be frosty. And going into the period towards the New Year, looking very wet, windy. New Year's Eve looking very wet, windy, possibly colder after a cold front there. Yeah. So there is some colder air, maybe some wintry showers there, but overall that's westerly pattern. Going to January now, and it does look quite mild, doesn't it? It's still got that pattern with the highs to the south, lows to the north, westerly winds, so on. Going to February, quite mild and dry, so really nothing too exciting with the midnight run either. So yeah, I guess the main takeaway is a frosty Christmas. Oh dear God. Christmases are looking quite dry, with at least transient areas of high pressure coming through here. So yeah, that should be the title of the video. Everyone, thanks for watching. I'm in trouble for this. I'll see you around, and bye for now.